Hey everyone, it's Semi 2009 here, and welcome to part 10 of Thomas and Friends What Ifs, where I go through your comments and give you my thoughts. So let's get into it. Max the Train Guy asked a few. 1. What if Henry died in the Flying Kipper? This would be unusually dark for Thomas, but then the Fat Controller would have to buy a new number 3, maybe a black 5. This would make more sense, but it would be a bit sad though. 2. What if Diesel 10 died in Tatmar? Again, this would be unusually dark for Thomas, but Diesel 10 would never return if this happened, which would make Tatmar more special, but all of the other movies with Diesel 10 in would have to have a new villain instead. 3. What if the Hit Era adapted more of the Railway series? This would have made the Hit Era much better because it would have had better episodes. Maybe instead of the endless new characters, we could have got some Railway series exclusive characters instead. 4. What if Ryan was the main antagonist of Lost Treasure? This would be strange, but the plot would probably be about Ryan wanting the fame that Thomas has and wants to take over his branch line. And Thomas knows this, but the Fat Controller doesn't, so he sends Thomas to the construction site. Perhaps Sailor John could be the good guy and actually wants the treasure to go to the museum. Ryan could steal the treasure, and Thomas, Skiff and Sailor John try to get the treasure back, and then the Fat Controller finds out the truth about Ryan. 5. What if George Carlin narrated Series 5? This would associate the Aldcroft Classic era in the US with one narrator, and the Ghislaine Classic era with another. 6. What if the Mid-Sodal Railway never closed? Duke would never be lost, and Sir Handel and Peter Sam would never have come to the Skarloey Railway, meaning that it would have to pay way more for engines 3 and 4, because the Skarloey Railway bought Handel and Peter Sam for cheap, after their project was complete working at the aluminium works. 7. What if Lost Treasure was about James? This would give James a lead role in a Thomas film, although Lost Treasure kind of has to be about Thomas because it's about him being number 1. 8. What if Skarloey was Rusty's ghost? This would mean that he would have died long before the events of Series 4, so the Skarloey Railway would have to manage without a number 1, like the Caldy Fell Railway. Although if this was the cast, Skarloey would be nowhere near as popular if this was his only appearance. 9. What if Thomas and Lady had swapped roles in the show? This would have been confusing. I'm not sure this would have gone down too well. Katie and Zarif asked, sorry if I've said that wrong, said, what if the chains holding Victor to the boat didn't break off? I'm not sure if Victor was originally intended to be the Steamworks engine, and maybe he would have stayed yellow, so maybe Victor and Luke would have been friends, and Luke would have taught him English, and Luke would never have hidden in the tunnel until Blue Mountain Mystery. Bleats1 asked, what if Billy appeared instead of Charlie? I mean, Charlie wouldn't exist, but we'd have to see Billy again. Jacob the New Engine 159 asked a few. 1. What if Sonic crossed over with Thomas? The only thing they have in common is that they're blue. I don't think this would work out, to be honest. 2. What if the Flying Kipper crash never happened in universe? This would mean that Henry would never have been rebuilt, and that means that he would have to have kept his special coal. 3. What if Duke was sent to work at Ulstead Castle and Smudger returned? I would have loved this, especially if Smudger became nice, and he would have got on with Duke after all these years they were apart. 4. What if Mavis became a bad Diesel like Diesel after her first episode? The thing I'm thinking about here is Thomas to the rescue. Thomas would have been disappointed by having to go to the quarry with Mavis, who is bad in this universe, and is even more upset when he sees Diesel there, and both engines bully him, until he saves both of them by bringing in new fuel. 5. What if Season 6 onwards didn't ignore Magic Railroad characters like Lady Diesel 10 and Splodge, and were used in the actual show? This would even more divide fans, some which saying that Series 6 confirms Tatmar to be canon, and others saying that Series 6 brings the new characters into the canon of the main show. But I would love to have seen them again. But because Splodge were repainted from Ari and Bert's props, Splodge would have to replace Ari and Bert, and if they only appeared in Stepney Gets Lost, then they would be remembered as those two killers from that one episode of Stepney in. 6. What if Stepney returned to CGI and All Engines Go? Many fans, including me, would be really glad if this happened. Conrail823 asked, what if Bubba was about Thomas visiting heritage railways all across the UK, and he visited the Bluebell Railway and met Stepney again? Big Britain, big adventures. This would have been incredible. We could have seen a lot of real-life engines, and the real-life counterparts to the engines of Sodor. And of course, this would have put Stepney into the CGI series. I think it would have been pretty cool if all of Series 22 to 24 were like this. It could also have adapted Thomas and the Great Railway Show for CGI. Sorry, I don't actually know how to pronounce your username. But this person asked, what if the faces in the CGI series didn't move? That would be a really missed opportunity and would just be creepy. ZBD asked, What if Thomas was in every single episode of the show? He pretty much is, but if he did, people would think it would just be greed. In some episodes, it would feel just a bit forced, especially Toby and the Stout Gentleman. Ryan Films asked a few. 1. What if Class 40 were to be the villain of Hero of the Rails instead of Spencer? This would make a lot more sense, as you said, but it would also be great to see Class 40 again, especially in CGI. 2. What if Murdoch returned in the Great Race? Yes, he definitely should have taken part in the strength competition, as you said. I also think if Murdoch was in the CGI series, he could have an episode with Hero about their strength, maybe pulling a mega good strain together. 3. What if Boko, Derek, Murdoch and Arthur returned to CGI? And where should they return? As you said, Murdoch should have returned in the Great Race, Arthur maybe in Lost Treasure, Boko somewhere around series 19 to 21, and Derek should definitely have returned in Bust My Buffers, and became a recurring character from then on. And that is it for today. I want to talk about the Find with Sam What Ifs video I did earlier this month. A lot of you seem to really like it, so I think I'll do a part 2 next month. I also had a suggestion to do a Bob the Builder What Ifs video. I might do that also at some point, I can't promise when, but one day in the future. And with that, I want to thank all of you for watching, see you in the next video, and goodbye for now.